The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
I'm Amber Bell, and this is Real Agriculture, here today for this episode of Canola School with Harold Brown, who's a technical service specialist with BASF. We're going to be talking about early season scouting, why it's important, and what it actually looks like. What are you looking for? So welcome, Harold. It's great to see you.
Thanks. It's great to be here, even on this drizzly morning.
Rainy morning in Manitoba.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about early season scouting. Let's just open up the conversation with what are we looking for?
Well, I think at this time of year, we seeded. A lot of the seeding was done about a week to 10 days ago. So at about 10 days, canola should be coming out of the ground. It's a great time to see what are the results of my seeding operation. And, what can I expect? What might I need to plan to do based on the plant count that's there?
Right. And how important is it to do that early season scouting? Like, if there's things going wrong, is there a way that you can make sure that you get off to a little bit of a better start for the season?
Well, I think if you are out there and you understand, maybe you have a lower plant count than you expect, you're going to have to be on that field more frequently. You can't afford to lose any plants. So you want to be on top of the pests. Make sure the weed control is done early because it's very competitive. You don't have a lot of plants there. You got to save every plant that is there if your plant count's a little low.
That's true. So what exactly are we looking for? So you've talked about plant counts. For one, what exactly does that look like?
So ideally, the sweet spot we found is about 5 to 7 plants per square foot. And it's surprising, even though we put down about 10 in the ground, you may only get about 50% of them or fewer, depending on how harsh the conditions are. And this year has been about as harsh as ever in Western Canada. We've had, if you believe it or not, when we seeded this field, it was over 30 degrees and windy, and then 5 days later, there was snow in the forecast. So lots of extreme conditions to plan around.
So Harold, what other environmental conditions could be impacting emergence if growers are seeing issues when they're going out to do their plant counts?
Well, one thing this spring, there's been a lot of wind, and all across the prairies, it doesn't matter what your soil type, but with a lot of wind, you could get wind shearing. So as little seedlings emerged and you have high wind blowing sand and silt across, it can shear those little seedlings right off, and you can lose a lot of plants that way.
And at what stage does that stop being a risk?
Once there's 2 to 3 leaves on the plant, it becomes less susceptible, but it could still get damaged, even larger plants like that. But the stems are thicker and better able to withstand damage from wind.
Right, definitely. Okay, and what else are you looking for? So you're going out doing a plant count. What are you looking for while you're doing that plant count?
So what I like to do, you go out and initially, are the plants emerging as you expect? And if they're not, then you have to get down and start digging around. And you probably always have to get down and a little bit dirty. I've got a little digging tool that works very well. You could use a trowel, dig up plants and see where the seed depth was, where you expected. Find some of those seedlings that have emerged and dig them up and see where they're actually coming from, if there's fewer than you expect. And we're in a soil that is heavy clay here. So we also had a heavy rain here after seeding. So some of those furrows washed in, and then we had a crust. So you scrape the crust off and look to see, are those seedlings there? And they're just trying to push through. And you may need to just give it some time and come back a few days later and just see if they made it through, and redo a count and see what the expectations are then. And if your plant counts are a little low, some other things you could start looking for, maybe those plants started to emerge and then they kind of didn't make it through. What could you be looking for? Maybe some of the things, if it was cutworms, if you're in an area that's prone to it, cutworms could have come along and chewed those off. They typically can happen in a row. You see a lot of plants missing in a row or in patches like that. Might be something to look for. If it's been an excessive amount of time that the plants seeds have been in the ground, maybe you could have some seedling disease that might be causing a problem. Typically seed treatments work well to control that for 3 to 4 weeks, so those early 3 to 4 weeks. So it'd have to be cold and wet for quite some time for that to be a problem. But then they start wearing off. Not much you can do about that.
Right. Especially if it's taken a little bit for the plants to emerge.
The cutworms at that time, then you may need to intervene. If you can't identify cutworms, you can spray to prevent them from causing more
damage. So what are some signs that you'd be looking for to kind of diagnose what problems you might be having if you're seeing an issue with your plant stand counts?
Yeah. So if you look at digging up plants and you see the seedlings coming through, if they're seeded deep or maybe there's furrows have filled in, you have the white hypocotyl emerging and it might be a long, inch and a half long. That's using a lot of resources pushing through. But if it's white and healthy, that's good. They just need more time. If you see it pinched and brownish and blackened, that could be a disease. If cotyledon, the end is missing, then you might have cutworms or something like that. So you start looking for those telltale signs of symptoms on those seedlings.
Sounds good. And when should you start looking at flea beetle damage, looking for that?
Yeah, flea beetles. They're hiding today, I think. It's cold for the cold. But yeah, it doesn't take too long. After the canola has emerged, they'll start moving into canola fields, and you can start seeing those marks even on the cotyledons showing up where they start chewing. Also, if it's windy, they do like to move in under the leaves, down in the furrows, and they'll start chewing on the stems. And stem feeding is really not good. They can actually kill a whole plant chewing on the stem, cause that lesion, and it's also going to be an infection point for diseases later on too. But yeah, you should start looking at your canola early, even if like we have really good seed treatments now and more effective ones than flea beetles. But if you have, say, the climate changes here in the next week and we get some warm and breezy days, they can cause a lot of damage fairly quickly in a short order of time. So even if you have good seed treatments, don't walk away and leave them. Keep checking, keep monitoring. It's always good right through till they get through that 4-leaf stage. And seed treatments are designed to get them through that 4-leaf stage. By that time, the plant should be hardy enough and withstand flea beetle pressure at that point.
Great. And any words of encouragement for producers that are going to be headed out to their fields to do some early season scouting?
Yeah, just I would encourage, when you walk in, make sure you don't just look at the headlands too. Take your time and walk through the field. If you got your quad there, drive to different parts of the field, lower areas, higher areas. Enjoy the view while you're out there.
The warm weather?
And hopefully a little warmer weather. But yes, it is spring in Western Canada.
And rain's a good thing.
Almost anything. And rain is a good thing. Yes, we do need the rain.
Well, terrific. Thank you so much for joining us. And that was Harold Brown on Real Agriculture.